I want to get into my talk today. The title of my talk is Suiting Up for Success. So the first thing I want to do is I want to ask you what you're wearing. Now, I'm not talking about your clothes. I'm talking about what you're wearing inside. What are you wearing inside your heart? This week, I started a new thing. Some of you might have noticed on Facebook Live called The New Thought Guy Reads. Now, what The New Thought Guy Reads is I come into your home around 5 o'clock-ish. You can always watch it later, but I come in live at 5 o'clock and I read from an inspirational book, sort of like an audio book live. And this week I've been reading this thing called You. And I've been doing 2, maybe 3 chapters a day. And I go for maybe 30 to 40 minutes now. And I read a couple of chapters out of the book. And I will continue this as we are all homebound. And that'll be something that you can also do to inspire you to greater thoughts. And the reason I'm doing this is because, well, I want to give. I want to be of service. I want to be of service in the best way I can using my talents, and that is one of my talents. Now, I am cold reading, so occasionally I flib and flub here and there, but when you listen to the ideas, you'll find that what's going on out there doesn't have the same effect as it did before. I want to read a few things that we discovered in the first 10, 11 chapters that we read this week. One of the first quotes that I want to bring you is, you, like all others, are seeking the joy of living. Everything in nature is endowed with this creative urge. Everything in nature is endowed with this creative urge to live in joy, to live in happiness, to live in our greatest good, whatever that is, and we get to decide what that is. Now, the important thing to remember is that no one is special, in that some people get it and some people don't. We all get it. And I believe also all of the animals get it, the trees get it, the rocks get it. The planet itself is an individualization of that divine power. And another thing that he brought up, which I thought was wonderful and which I say so often, is it's not a big secret. There's no secret here. There's just a knowing, there's just an opening, there's just an allowing to reveal these ideas in our minds, in our bodies, in our hearts. Somewhere in the second chapter, I believe he brings up a Robert Browning quote that says, "Man can desecrate, but never lose the divine spark." Man can desecrate, but never lose the divine spark. That divine spark is always there. It's what we decide we want to do with it. And I don't mean just in general. I don't mean about your job. I don't mean about how much money you're getting or having. I don't even mean about your body temple and what's going on. I mean about your thoughts, your ideas, your attitudes, your perspective, especially of what's going on right now with all of us around the world. You know, we don't teach in this philosophy you what to think. We teach you how to think. We inspire you how to think. And by using the tools of how to think, you decide what it is you want to think. And I'm also not asking you to change reality. I'm not asking you to go out there and necessarily change what's going on out there. That's what's happening. What I want us to do is change what's going on in here. In here. What I want us to change is our reaction to what's going on out there. And yes, what's going on around us. I want us to tune into the truth, not the facts, or at least not just the facts. We don't ignore the facts. We're all doing what is best for us to do as far as our health is concerned, and the health of our nation and our world for that matter. But is our perspective in those facts, our perspective on life in those facts, or is our perspective in our life in the truth of what's going on? Are we tuning into what Emma Curtis Hopkins, the teacher of teachers, as she's called, says? She calls the doctrine of now and here. We are to be in a doctrine of now and here, not a doctrine of tomorrow, not a doctrine of yesterday. A doctrine of now and here, or here and now. For those who are Eckhart Tolle fans, the power of now. What is the power of now? The power is of knowing who I am, and what I am deciding to perceive about what's going on in my life right here and right now. Not the future, not what's going to go on tomorrow or 2 months from now, or when we're not all sitting at home all the time, even though you may be working, or feeling isolated or anxious about what's going on around us, or even in a healing phase. What's going on right now in our minds? There was a rabbi on Twitter that I follow, and she was expressing how she was feeling a little overwhelmed because there's an emotional toll with her as a spiritual leader, for counseling and tending to her community, as well as doing, the other work that she does. And it's a bit exponential right now with people being anxious and feeling isolated, et cetera, that is going on during this pandemic. And she was expressing that. And I wrote back to her. I said, I'm having a tough time with the tough time I'm having about the tough time we're all having during this tough time. It's tough all around. But I also reminded her, and of course, reminding her, I was reminding myself to stay in forgiveness, forgiving ourselves for what we thought the moment before that maybe wasn't a very positive thought. And to know that we are blessed by a divine energy that we can grasp at any moment. It doesn't go away just because there's a pandemic. There's a divine energy that is always there, that is always waiting for us, a divine spark that we can just reach out for, grab, and bring back in. And part of that is in forgiveness. And part of that is knowing who we are. And if you can't feel like you can reach for it right this second, there's always chocolate. Now, there's a lot of people talking about being anxious, and I was talking to PJ a couple days ago about, I'm not feeling too anxious. And in some ways, that makes me feel anxious. And it hit me yesterday, Saturday, about what was going on with me, because between her work and helping her set up her Zoom classes that she's having, which is wonderful and successful, and doing my regular stuff, we're very busy. It's not less busy. And I realized that, and I'm going to read this because I realized I was feeling anxious about not knowing about feeling anxious in order to counsel those who are feeling anxious about this anxiety-infused time. I was feeling anxious that I wasn't feeling anxious. And it hit me Saturday morning, really. Before, when I was talking to PJ, it was more of an intellectual thing. But Saturday morning, I had things to do yesterday to prepare for today. And I didn't want to do anything. I just didn't. I got up and I didn't want to do anything. And I felt badly. And I had to take quite a moment to be okay with that versus taking the entire morning. And instead of taking the decision, I'm going to take the morning off, and then in the afternoon, after we have some lunch, then I'll do some work and some prep for tomorrow, la, 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 la. But no, I spent some time, not all the time, I spent a little time in the morning festering about the morning that I was going to waste by not doing anything because I didn't feel like it. And then, after maybe a little more than the minute and a half that I usually say to give oneself, I realized, wait a minute, I get to choose. So I grabbed hold of myself, so to speak, and I used some of these spiritual tools that I keep putting in front of you to help myself. And the first one I did was breathe. This whole breath thing is so powerful in centering. And that's what I did. I breathed. I just breathed. Now I get into the breathing in and God is, and breathing out, I am. But just focusing on my breath started to calm me down, started to center me, started to allow the forgiveness of these mixed feelings to wash away. Other things that we can do, and Gary spoke about these, is imagination. Go out, use your imagination. When you're taking a walk, take a walking meditation and use your imagination. Don't you remember when you used to just sit and imagine you were someone somewhere doing something that had nothing to do with what was going on right now? Now, in those days, it was cowboys and Indians or some sort of king or queen or fantasy or knight or whatever that you imagined, and it took you away. It made you get into that zone where you were vibrating at the speed of the divine. Well, when we use that kind of imagination now, we're centering ourselves. We're stepping away from the anxiety, from the isolation feelings, and empowering ourselves with this imagination. Go outside. If you haven't been going outside, do it. We go outside, we take a walk, we sit in our yard. And if you don't have one, if you live in like an apartment building or something, open the door and start talking to your neighbors across the hall. We open our door and talk to our neighbors across the way, and we kind of hang out together outside, even keeping the social distancing. It's so wonderful to see more and more people saying hi as they're all going out on their walks. Use affirmations. Don't forget the affirmations. Gary was speaking about that. I came up with another word for it, although I'm not liking it. I probably will redo it. But right now I'm calling them affirm prayerations. Doesn't work, does it? No. Because they're more of a prayer. Thoughts are things. Words are our prayers. Our thoughts are our prayers, as they say in Unity. So we use those thoughts. We use those thoughts and those words going on in our head, or those that we speak out loud, as prayers, as affirmations of what's going on. We'll use the affirmations. I will put it up when I share this this video on the New Thought Guide page and the New Thought Spiritual Center page. I'll make sure that the affirmation for this week is in the comments, so that you can go back there and look at them or copy and paste it for yourself. We need to start exchanging these destructive thoughts that we have, and I'm not saying that they're not valid. Of course, have your valid feelings, but there comes a point where we have to exchange those destructive thoughts and anxiety and worry and feeling isolated. Those are destructive thoughts. Factual as they may feel, they are destructive thoughts. We can exchange those for constructive thoughts. And it doesn't magically make the anxiety go away. It will. But this is not magic. It may happen like that. It may happen a little bit over a few minutes. But what it does, and what is important to remember, is that it awakens us to intuit spirit, to intuit who we truly are. And if needed, it awakens the divine healing we may require at that moment, whether it's healing emotionally or healing in the body temple. It opens our heart to the peace and calm so that we can move through this event without harm. Getting back to a little bit of this thing called you, he said, all minds are an outlet through which the creative intelligence of the universe seeks to express and fulfill itself. It suits itself up in each and every one of you, it being the divine, being God, being spirit, being the source and substance of our supply. The choice of what to wear and how to wear it is ours. Do we want to walk around in rags? Or do we want to walk around in a version of Brunello Cucinelli tux? We get to decide. The only barriers to our calm and peace is the barriers we decide to put up. The barriers do not lie in what the president says, as confusing and disturbing as that may be, nor does it lie in what the scientists and medical experts say, nor does it lie even in the virus itself. It lies in our hearts, in our minds. And the sooner we step up into knowing that and taking control of that, the sooner we have less, if not no, anxiety, or less often having it, or being able to grasp it and go, okay, thanks for showing up. I've learned what I needed to learn. Bye-bye. We get to do that. We get to have the choice like that because we live in a law of faith. A law that says, yes, whatever you believe, I shall bring into your experience. As we learn to exchange fears, doubts, and uncertainties for faith, these thoughts, often repeated, this is Ernest Holmes again, form patterns in mind which automatically reproduce themselves. Thoughts often repeated form patterns in the mind which automatically reproduce themselves. See, thought has a cumulative power. It may not happen the first time you think the pleasant thoughts, the calming thoughts, the loving thoughts, but they accumulate. And the more and more you are in that mode of thinking, the more and more your body reacts to that, and your mind reacts to that, and your attitudes and perspectives react to that. It brings a serenity into you. A serenity that doesn't ignore what's going on, a serenity that changes its attitude and perspective on what's going on and how it relates to you. Expectancy will speed your process. Ernest Holmes said in one of those chapters, expectancy, expecting to not be in anxiety, to not be feeling isolated. Even though you may physically be isolated, knowing that you can open the door and say hi. You can take a walk and say hi from across the street. You can go to the store, and while you're standing in line 6 feet from the person in front of you, if you're waiting to get into the store like we do, you say hi, you smile, you say hi. How you doing? What's going on? Me too. This is what I'm doing to not feel so anxious. And converse and be part of life and be part of living. Suiting up for success during the special occasion. This is a special occasion. Dr. Robert Bitzer, one of the early new religious science guys, used to say principle works even on special occasions. This is one of those special occasions, the novel coronavirus pandemic. You know, suiting up for success here is doing those things we've been doing for weeks now, constantly washing our hands, the whole social distancing, everything of that scientific ilk, but also of the faith science too. This is science. This is not religion I'm talking about. This is science. These affirmations, these thought pattern exchanges is science. It works. It's psychology. It's neuro-linguistic programming, if you will, when we suit up ourselves with successful thoughts. And we're not struggling here. I want to make sure we know we're not struggling. Don't struggle through, because what we're actually doing is straining. We're straining out these negative feelings that are getting in our way. It reminds me of that whole thing with the glass of dirty water. So you take a glass of dirty water and you take a pitcher of clean water with that perfect alkaline pH, and you start pouring that clean water into the glass of dirty water. Well, after a while, that dirty water becomes clean water, because the clean water, the clean thoughts, the peaceful thoughts, the calm thoughts overwhelm those destructive thoughts. And so soon you have a glass of clean water, a mind and heart full of clean, calm, peaceful, loving thoughts. You're drowning them out eventually. Again, this is not religious. This is scientific. This is psychology. This is neuro-linguistic programming. This is the science of the mind. So we have to take hold of our thoughts by repeating over and over again until we get it. And we'll get it. Maybe it's inch by inch, moment by moment, minute by minute, but we'll get it. These negative thoughts for the positive new ones, and optimize our thinking. Pour fresh, clean thoughts of clarity, imagination, health, fun, patience, there's a big one, and flexibility into the dirty water that has come to us through this pandemic. It's like a garden. You know, you plant a tomato plant and you put it in the ground, and you know, because you expect, because you planted a tomato plant, that what's going to come up is a tomato plant, not roses, not an orange tree, a tomato plant. So once you've planted those seeds, what do? You keep watering them. You nourish them. You bring them affirmations. You bring them positive thoughts. You bring all that over and over again. Prayers. Being out with people, even if you're 6 feet away. Doing this. Doing various other things. Coming to the New Thought Guy reads, the various meditations that I see all over Facebook Live. Having a Zoom party with your friends. Having a dance party on Facebook Live or something. All those things can be done. The energy that is coming from here into the computer or the phone and going through the ether and back down into somebody else's phone or computer and coming back into them is the same energy. We just have to know it and accept it and continue to water it. Do so with me. Join me in doing that. I'm doing it too, and I understand what's going on with all of you. And this is what's helping me. And I know it can help you. Thank you so much. Namaste.